What is going on, everybody? It is Dylan with DFS, bringing you a brand new video. In today's video, going over Week 17's main slate, wide receivers and tight ends. If you guys are interested in my quarterbacks and running backs, I posted that video the other day. You guys could go check that one out. If you guys are interested in the final spreadsheet where I have my smash plays in for subscribers, click the link in the description. That will take you to our Discord, and you can get this subscription package. Which has the spreadsheet, bets and props for you guys, player pools, and fantasy advice. So if you guys are interested, go check that out. But let's get into the wide receivers. So Tyreek Hill I have as a cash play right now is 9,300 against Baltimore. One of the higher totals on the slate. Waddle's out. Tyreek is the best wide receiver in yards per route run versus man. 7th most receptions to wide receivers. 33 points the last time Waddle missed a game, which was earlier this year against Denver when they had that big game. So yeah, Tyreek Hill, Hamilton likely to be out. So Hill at 9,300 in this matchup. He's going to be one of the guys I'm targeting at that top price. AJ Brown, I have a stackable 8,600 against Arizona. Heavy favorites there as well. If you can afford it, go for it. I just don't think for the price point on this slate, he's really worth it. Top 20 wide receiver versus zone and 34% red zone target share. He's just not putting up explosive numbers lately. In a matchup to where it's pretty one-sided, it's not a huge favorite there. Stephon Diggs, a tournament play at 8,200 against New England. Last 6 out of 7 games under 10 DK points. It's a good matchup for him, though. Okay versus man coverage this year, which New England runs a lot. And 26% red zone target share. The reason I like him as a tournament play is he's probably going to be low owned. No one's going to play Diggs for how bad he's been this season, especially as of late. So his price is still not adjusted as much as I'd like it to be, but it is going down nonetheless. So Stephon Diggs, I like as a tournament play. That high upside, low ownership, no one really on it. And then Puka Nacua, stackable option. You could put either Ram wide receiver in cash. I don't mind it. It's just taking that risk, $200 difference. Slightly better than Cup versus main coverage. Great matchup for him. Giants giving up the 5th most receptions to wide receivers. You look and see what the Giants have really given up to wide receivers lately, and it's pretty significant. So I like Puka. I like Cooper Kupp. I just like Puka a little more, especially at the price difference. Mike Evans, a cash play against New Orleans. Now, I know this is a risky one saying Mike Evans cash against New Orleans, but Lattimore's out, right? He's on the IR. He's not going to be there. Mike Evans tied for the most touchdowns versus man coverage, which Saints run top 5% man coverage. Good matchup for him of who he is going to see. 14 red zone targets, just slightly behind Chris Godwin. And a big division game like this one, pretty much if Tampa Bay wins, or not pretty much, if they do win, they get the they win the division, I believe. I don't think there's a scenario they don't if they win. But yeah, Mike Evans, great play there, 7,800. Then we go down to Jamar Chase tournament at 7,600 against Kansas City. 18 receptions for 363 yards and 3 touchdowns in 2 games versus the Chiefs. That is crazy. So if you were to put that in DK perspective, right? So he gets 54 plus 3 is 18, 72 plus 2 bonuses. So he's averaging 39 DK points versus Kansas City. That's crazy. Granted, it's a different defense in Kansas City. Their defense is really good. Snead could be out. That's something to monitor. Burrow's not there. It's Browning, but Browning has still been very good. 19 red zone targets for Jamar Chase. Okay versus man coverage, which Kansas City runs quite a bit. So I like him as a tournament play. Michael Pittman Jr., I didn't think we'd see him back this season, right? Just because of that hit. Blessed up to him. That is crazy. That hit he took, it looked like a career-threatening hit, right? And wasn't the defender's fault, right? It is just kind of a natural thing. But Pittman 75 against Vegas. 19 red zone targets so far this season. Good versus zone. Last 5 out of 7 games getting 10 plus targets. So definitely getting the targets. If that volume it concerns you, no. It's what he does with the volume against this Vegas team that's definitely playing way above expectations just because they're playing for their coach. So they're playing to get in the playoffs, right? Playing to get paid. There's a lot they're playing for, and they are playing for. They're playing very hard for whatever it is each player is playing for. So Devontae Adams on the other side I have as a cash play at 7,400, so just slightly cheaper than Michael Pittman. Top 20 wide receiver versus zone. Colts' best corner, Moore, is questionable. Did not practice at all this week. 21 red zone targets for Devontae Adams so far this season. 28 targets in the last 3 in a great matchup, especially if Moore's out. It's a really great matchup for Devontae Adams. Nico Collins, another cash play at 7,200 against Tennessee. Good numbers versus man and zone. He's like a top 20, top 25 wide receiver in both man and zone. Leads the team in red zone targets. Great matchup against this really banged up Tennessee defense, who's giving up the second most receptions to wide receiver. So Nico Collins, a huge cash play. Brandon Ayuk, stackable, also cash. Great stack with Brock Purdy. Washington's missing, as of right now, 3 corners, it looks like. And they already are the worst defense against wide receivers, or top 2 of just giving wide receivers points. So Brandon Ayuk at 7,000, right? I think is really good. Last 2 out of 3 games, 20 plus DK points. Great matchup. Top 10 wide receiver versus man, which Washington still runs man way more than zone. Rashee Rice, another stackable option at 6,900. I don't love him in cash, honestly, this week. Okay versus man. Okay matchup against Cincinnati. They're facing Cincinnati. He's going to face Cincinnati's best corner. 22 red zone targets so far this season. Top 10 in the league. 9 plus targets in the last 5. Kadarius Toney out. So a lot to like for Rashee Rice. You can easily play him in cash too. It's just versus man coverage in this matchup. It's kind of shaky. Chris Olave, 6,800 against Tampa Bay. Top 10 wide receiver versus man. Really good matchup against another banged up secondary in Tampa Bay. Leads team in red zone targets. 110 plus in the last 3 out of 4 games. So Chris Olave definitely having some big games there. Calvin Ridley, tournament play going against Carolina. 41.5% of the red zone targets go to him. Kirk and Trevor Lawrence are out. With T-Law out, that's definitely a big hit. It's a tough matchup against his Carolina secondary, who Carolina's a really bad team, but if you go and look at the fantasy numbers, they don't give out a lot of fantasy numbers to quarterbacks, wide receivers, and tight ends. It's pretty much running backs. 34 targets in the last 3 games for Calvin Ridley as well. And then DJ Moore, another tournament play. If Kmet out, I'd say DJ Moore is a great cash play. We already know Darnell Mooney's out. 19% of the red zone targets. And if Cole Kmet, the leading red zone target man in Chicago, is out, it's going to go to DJ Moore, Mercedes Lewis, Robert Tonyan. It's a good matchup. Atlanta's missing some secondary as well, so like DJ Moore at his price point. Chris Godwin, 6,100 against New Orleans. A tournament play is stackable as well with Baker. 22 in the last matchup against New Orleans. This season, 16 red zone targets, leads the team right above Mike Evans. Great matchup against New Orleans. Going to face their worst corner. But his numbers versus man aren't spectacular this season. DeAndre Hopkins, a cash play at 6,000 against Houston. It's a good run back if you like a Houston stack. Only had 4 in their last matchup just a few weeks ago. Top 15 wide receiver versus zone. 35% of the red zone targets go to him. One of the corners for Houston, which DeAndre Hopkins is going to see, Steve Nelson, is questionable, has not practiced towards the end of the week, so that's something to monitor as well. Zay Flowers, 5,600, stackable against Miami. Good matchup for him. Plays better versus zone. 21% of the red zone targets go to him. Last 3 out of 4, 20 plus points, and one of the highest totals on the slate. So Zay Flowers, always a really good option here. Jerry Jeudy, cash play for me at 5,100. I think if you're looking for a mid-tier price guy to kind of save some salary, Jerry Jeudy is the guy. Going against a terrible Chargers secondary, right? Bottom 5 in almost every stat. But Cortland Sutton's out. Mims likely out. It's pretty much all but confirmed Mims is out. If Mims is in, that changes the Jerry Jeudy narrative. But with Stidham being the new quarterback, I'm relying on Jerry Jeudy probably being the number one target guy. But this is Sean Payton's offense. We've seen him use other guys. But against this Chargers secondary, I rely on Jerry Jeudy, especially for his price point. JSN at 48. I have it in Palmer. I apologize. Palmer's out. But JSN, great versus man. 10 plus points in the last 2 out of 3 games. I said if DK is out, he's a great cash play, but it looks like DK is expected in. And best Seattle wide receiver matchup this week. So 4,800, another good one there. Demario Douglas, cash at 4,300 against Buffalo. Tough matchup. Tough matchup, good matchup. I just contradicting myself apparently. I think I'm in there for somebody else. I don't know. Maybe Greg Dortch. I'm not sure. We'll get rid of that before we read the rest of it. Good matchup for Demario Douglas, right? Buffalo secondary is pretty tough, but when it comes to the target share that he gets with Bailey Zappi too, getting an upgrade with Bailey Zappi, he's been very good versus zone this year. Juju, we already know, is confirmed out. Huge dogs means more passing. So if, Buffalo is up, 3 scores, New England's probably going to pass it quite a bit to try to get back into it, see what they have with some of these young, talented, talented, but really haven't seen it with Demario Douglas, Thornton, see what they have with Bailey Zappi if they want to continue with him next season. Not meaning starting quarterback, but continue him on the roster, that is. They're going to take a quarterback. They're not keeping Zappi and Jones to compete for QB1. Greg Dortch value, 4,200 against Philly. I think he's a good run back if you like a Philly stack going with, Jalen Hurts, DeAndre Swift, A.J. Brown, Dallas Goedert. If you like any of those guys, I think Dortch is a really good run back option, as well as Trey McBride, right? We'll get into that one soon. But Marquise Brown out for the season, playing worse defense to wide receiver, so get some love for some Arizona wide pass catchers there in a good matchup of who he's going to see. Sorry about that. We go down to Quentin Johnson, 3,700 going against Denver. Keenan Allen out. Palmer out. Played pretty bad versus man coverage so far this season. Denver runs a lot of it. Tough matchup. Going to see Patrick Surtain quite a bit. 10 plus points in the last 3 out of 4 games though for him. Higher volume this week, 3,700. I think he's a great pay down. And then Jonathan Mingo, 3,500 against Jacksonville. It's a good matchup for him. Jacksonville 17 total touchdowns to wide receivers. Low volume, below average versus zone, but his price point here, yet again, Bryce Young hasn't looked terrible. Kind of had a crazy good game against Green Bay. Second half game, DJ Chark was the guy who DJ Chark's in a revenge game going against his former team, so keep that in mind. But Jonathan Mingo I like as well. And then Darius Slayton, this one's something to monitor. Wandell I would expect in, but if he's out for whatever reason, I think Darius Slayton's a great cash play then at 3,400. So let's go to the tight ends now. Travis Kelce, 7,000 going against Cincinnati. Huge pay down for what Travis Kelce usually is. Since he's the second worst defensive tight ends this season, best PFF tight end grade advantage. 19 red zone targets behind Rashee Rice. Only 3 games, though, this season with 20-plus DK points, so that's something to worry about. Hopefully they get it. It started soon, that connection of Mahomes and Kelce before the playoffs. Otherwise, it's going to be tough. Trey McBride, 5,900. I really like this week. I think he's a good stack option with Murray, especially for Murray's price against Philly. If you want to go that route, I think that's a good route to take. 7-plus targets in every game Kyler Murray's played. Marquise Brown out. Top 10 PFF tight end grade advantage. Leads team in red zone targets. George Kittle, 5,600 is a cash play for me. Sorry about that. George Kittle, though, 5,600 against Washington. Like I mentioned, Washington missing 3 different corners, or 3 different DBs, is what it's looking like. High total, I think we're getting to 50 now. And they're 2 touchdown favorites. So George Kittle, another cash play this week. Darren Waller, 4,500. I think it's a good stackable option if you're going the Tyrod Taylor route. Top 10 PFF tight end grade advantage. 887 yards and 8 touchdowns to tight ends the Rams have allowed this season. Then Dalton Schultz, 4,300 going against Tennessee. Top 10 PFF tight end grade advantage. 9.8 in the last matchup, but that was without Stroud. Titans only given up 1 touchdown to tight end so far this season, but with a lot of injuries, that doesn't mean a whole lot. 13 red zone targets for the team. Kyle Pitts, 4,100 going against the Bears. Bears third most receptions to tight ends. Top 10 PFF tight end advantage. Low red zone targets, unsure offense. Great with Atlanta. Anything. Just anything defensively, offensively. That team is just so up and down. So up and down. Chig Okonkwo, 3,600 against Houston. Most receptions and third most yards to tight ends Houston is allowing. But Chig only had 6.6 in their last matchup. Just happened a few weeks ago, so that's something to also keep an eye out. He had the same stuff going into that one. 6.6 has not been included really at all this season. Gerald Everett, cash play at 3,500 going against Denver. The top 10 PFF tight end grade advantage. Keenan Allen out. Josh Palmer out. 998 yards and 10 touchdowns to tight ends. Really like Gerald Everett this week. And then Austin Hooper, value at the Stoneman going against Indy with Michael Mayer out, Horsted out. Indy giving up 82 receptions and 830 yards to tight ends. Only got 3.3 last week for me. But at his price point, it doesn't really hurt you as much. It's the same thing as paying for a defense. Adam Troutman's another name to watch. Dulich didn't get cleared with Sutton and Mims out. Troutman leads a team in red zone targets then at 2,900. That's another name to watch out for. So hope you guys did enjoy the video. If you did, please leave a like and subscribe. And I will see you guys tomorrow. I will have a first look at the main slate, the last slate of this regular season. So I'm going to have that out Monday for you guys. So hope you enjoyed. See you in the next one.